Now there's a Big Ten championship game to be played. Oh, yeah. So if last year had not occurred, I'd be hitting you with all the questions about you're on the mountaintop. 6 days later, you got to be ready to play a good team. I know they're nowhere close to the level of play that we saw last weekend, but still they're capable, obviously, to a certain extent, have a really good passing attack, et cetera, et cetera. And how do you get up for that when it's almost how can the Big Ten championship be a letdown? Well, we know what the deal is between the East and the West and Ohio State, Michigan, and what that means. But they did it last year. They were able to bounce right back off of a breakthrough win against their rival and turn it up against Iowa and get the job done emphatically.
I think, I agree with you. If this is last year, and I was worried about last year of you're on the top of the world, right? And so it's going to be tough to follow that up. But I just think, I watched JJ McCarthy in that post-game press conference right on the field, and he made sure to add it. He went back to the microphone to add it and say, "Job's not finished." These guys are truly on a mission, and I truly believe that. And it's something that the focus and the discipline of this team is really phenomenal, where they went into Columbus too, and they were the more disciplined team, even though there's so many variables going on. So that's why I believe that they're going to be just as disciplined, just as focused on beating Purdue in this Big Ten championship. And I don't believe Blake Corum will go in this game as well. So they're going to have to do it again without him. But my confidence level stays pretty high that Michigan's going to win this game on Saturday.
Which makes it extremely difficult to really size up this game from a matchup standpoint, because any matchup we're going to throw out there goes Michigan's way. Purdue's a team that what actually makes it intriguing for me looking at this matchup is that they're the anti-Big Ten Western Division team. Now, in terms of their quality of play, they're right in with the rest of them, but they approach it completely different. You take Minnesota, Illinois, Iowa, Wisconsin, they all play the same way. Excellent defense, running game, limited passing attack, close to the vest. Let's win 16-13. Purdue's the sling it around the field. We got a quarterback. We got receivers. We attack. We go after it. We're an offensive-minded team, and we open it up.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting. But, I mean, somebody said it on Twitter, and I thought it was kind of funny. Is Purdue diet Ohio State? They're just the less good version of Ohio State. That's how I feel. And so that's where I think the confidence stays, for this game, where they don't really have to game plan differently than they did last week. It's just with a lot less talent, right? And so I still think Aiden O'Connell is a great quarterback. I think that they're really solid. It'll be interesting to see if they're able to if Purdue is able to get some of those big plays, Ohio State really only had a handful, maybe 2-3 of them, right? If Purdue's able to get some of those, then that's a different story for this game. But I am very, very confident in Michigan's offense against this Purdue defense. I feel like that's where they're going to score quite a few points going into this one.
And because of the way Purdue plays, and also because they're not at the talent level of the teams we're talking about, this has the chance to be, if they're playing at their very best, which they have a couple times this year, then maybe they stay in the game. If they're not, and they've gotten whipped by Iowa, they got whipped by Wisconsin. Don't look at the final score. Look at that game. They got killed. Like, if they're not on it, then wow, it's a massacre. It's like, wow, it's not even close.
Yeah, and that's where, I think that, it may be that first quarter, maybe the second quarter. I see this game being close, especially if some of those big plays hit for Purdue. But I have to imagine that Michigan's offensive line is going to push that defensive line around enough, whether it's CJ Stokes or Donovan Edwards or Isaiah Gash in there. I think they're going to be able to run the ball for a lot more consistency than they did against Ohio State. Obviously, the yardage is there because of two huge runs, but I think the consistency, they'll go back to that. And then I think if they can continue the passing game as they did on Saturday, even though it wasn't, again, super consistent, but if you can hit some of those plays, I think that's where, Michigan, I see them opening this game up in the second half. And then there's no reason not to expect that defense to clamp down in the second half. They've proved it against every single team that they've gone up against in the second half of the season. They gave up in the second half against Michigan State, Penn State, and Ohio State, 9 total points. Incredible. Really incredible.
It really is. It really is. And Penn State continues to roll and shows again how dominant Michigan's been this season. When you go back and look at that game and then see Penn State's body of work, they're going to play in a New Year's Six Bowl as like the 7th ranked team.
Why is nobody talking about that as a huge win? I don't understand that. You've got the SEC teams talking about, LSU's wins, and I know they lost, but talking about Tennessee's wins, all this stuff. Nobody's talking about a win over the number 8 team in the nation, whose only losses are to Michigan and Ohio State. The number 2 and what are they, 6 now? 5, 6?
Yeah.
So, Penn State's got an incredible resume, and Michigan beat them soundly. That should be up there for the best wins of the year.
If you want to know everything you really need to know about the Big Ten in one sentence, Ohio State, Michigan, and Penn State are, what would that be? I had the number in my head before. I think it's 20-0. Well, they play 9 games times 3 is 27. They're undefeated against the rest of the conference between the 3 of them. And then obviously Michigan beat Ohio State soundly. They crushed Penn State in the second half. Ohio State beat Penn State. So there's a clear separation even between those 3. And then those 3 are undefeated against everybody else. I think it's 8-0 times 3, 24-0.
Yeah.
Between
I think you're right.
It's pretty crazy.
I think you're right.
And there's your separation.
Yeah.